After my surgery, I couldn't walk without help. My daughter-in-law whispered to my son, loud enough for me to hear, "She's just dead weight now." He said, "Let's look into a facility." That night, I pretended to sleep. But 2 months later, when they tried to sell my house, they found out what I did with the deed. I'm a 68-year-old woman living in Greeley, Colorado. I raised my only son, Aaron, in the house my late husband and I bought when we first got married. That house was everything to me. We weren't rich, we barely scraped by, but we built a life there. I painted every wall myself. I planted the lilacs in the front yard. I paid every bill on my own after my husband died in a truck accident when Aaron was just 10. I worked 2 jobs most of my life. Substitute teaching during the week, and cashiering at Safeway on weekends. I didn't mind. I had a goal: make sure Aaron never felt like he was missing out, even without a dad. And I did that. He got new shoes every school year. He went to summer camps. I even helped pay for his first car when he turned 18. So when I needed him, really needed him, I didn't think twice about trusting him. After my hip surgery, everything got harder. The operation didn't go as smoothly as we expected. The doctor said it was just a small stroke that happened during recovery. But it hit me hard. I had weakness on one side and couldn't walk without a walker. I needed help getting up and down the stairs. Sometimes I couldn't even get out of bed without help. It was humiliating. I hated depending on anyone. Aaron offered to have me stay at his place. He and his wife, Trina, had bought a newer 2-story house on the other side of town. "Just until you recover," he said. "A couple of weeks." I said yes. I didn't know what I was agreeing to. At first, they were polite. Not warm, but polite. Trina set up a room for me on the ground floor, which was really just her office. She cleared the desk and shoved in a hospital bed. I told her I didn't need a hospital bed, I wasn't dying, but she insisted. I let it go. I felt like I was walking on eggshells every day. Trina would bring me toast in the morning, and slam the plate on the side table. She never looked me in the eye. Aaron just said he was stressed from work and brushed it off. The first time I really felt it, the shift, was during week 2. It was late. I had trouble sleeping. My legs were aching, and I needed to use the bathroom. I hit the little bell they gave me. Trina came in, sighed like I'd just asked her to carry me up a mountain, and helped me to the bathroom. When I got back in bed, she walked out into the hallway. I couldn't see her, but I heard every word. "She's just dead weight now," Trina whispered to Aaron. Then I heard his reply, quiet but clear. "Let's look into a facility. Somewhere decent." I felt like I stopped breathing. That was my son. My baby. The one I raised on my own. The one I sacrificed for. Talking about sending me away like I was a burden. I laid there staring at the ceiling in the dark. I didn't move. I didn't cry. I just listened as my own child and his wife talked about handing me off. The next day, I asked Aaron to take me back to my house. "I need some personal things," I said. "Photos, winter clothes, maybe some mail." He hesitated. "You sure you're okay with all those stairs?" "I'll rest when we get there," I said. He finally agreed. When we got to the house, it smelled like home. Dusty, quiet, but still mine. Aaron carried a box upstairs for me. I sat on the couch and waited until he was out of sight. Then I pulled out my phone and called Ruth. Ruth is 71. She's sharp, organized, and a retired notary. We went to the same church years ago, and I've always trusted her. She picks up on the second ring. "Ruth, it's Marianne. I need a favor." "It's serious." "What's wrong?" "I want to transfer the deed." "Can you come tonight?" She hesitated. "To who?" "To my niece. Lacey." "She still lives out in Boulder?" "No. She just moved back. I want the house to go to her. Not Aaron. Silence. Then, I'll bring the paperwork. Over the next few days, I got everything ready. Ruth came by after dark. We filled out the forms, she signed, and I signed. Lacey came by too. We had dinner together in my kitchen like old times. I told her what Aaron had said. Her eyes welled up. He's not the same anymore, she said. I'm sorry, Aunt Marianne. I gave her a copy of the deed. We backdated the occupancy slightly, so it lined up with when I left for the surgery. It was all legal. All clean. My lawyer, Ron, another old friend, checked it himself. I didn't say a word to Aaron or Trina. I went back to their house and waited. 2 months later, they made their move. Aaron came into my room one morning, holding his phone and a big smile. So we've been talking to a realtor, he said. Your house could go for close to $400,000 right now. Maybe more. We figured this would be a good time to sell. I looked at him, calm as I could. Sell? Yeah. I mean, the market's hot. You don't really need the place anymore. And we could use the money to put you somewhere really nice. A facility with nurses and activities. You'll be comfortable. I said nothing. Trina chimed in. And it's not like you can live there alone anymore. You said so yourself. I smiled. Of course. Do whatever you need. They thought they had it locked up. The next day, the realtor called Aaron back. There's an issue with the title, she said. Aaron said, what do you mean? The property's no longer in Marianne's name. That night, the screaming started. That night, Aaron came into my room like a storm. No knocking, no warning. He slammed the door behind him so hard it rattled the window. You signed the house over? He shouted. I was sitting on the bed, folding some of my clothes. Calm. I'd been waiting for this. I did, I said. To Lacey? His face was red. Are you serious right now, Mom? I'm serious, I said. As serious as you were when you said I was dead weight. His mouth opened, but he didn't say anything. Trina came in right behind him, arms crossed. She looked like she was ready to explode. You gave that house away without even talking to us, she snapped. I didn't give it away, I said. I gave it to someone I trust. Aaron laughed, more like a sharp, angry bark. You realize we already had a buyer lined up? We spent money getting the place ready to list. You didn't ask me, I said. You never asked if I was okay with it. You just assumed I'd go along with whatever you wanted. Trina stepped forward. That was our retirement plan, Marianne. We were doing all of this for you. I looked her dead in the eyes. No, you were doing it for yourselves. After that, the house became a war zone. They started treating me like a stranger. Meals stopped showing up. Trina took the bell away from my nightstand. They forgot to bring me to physical therapy 1 week. Aaron wouldn't even look at me. Then they started dropping hints. You know, Trina said one night, we don't have to let you stay here. If you're going to screw us over, maybe you should find somewhere else. I nodded. I'll make arrangements. I already had. I called Ruth again. She found me a small 1-bedroom apartment not far from the grocery store I used to work at. It wasn't fancy, but it was clean. It was quiet. And it was mine. With a little help from Lacey and some church friends, I moved out quietly one morning while Aaron and Trina were at work. I left a note on the bed, thank you for everything. Take care. The silence after that was nice. But it didn't last long. 2 weeks later, Aaron called me. First time since I left. I want to talk, he said. Can we meet? I agreed. We met at a diner we used to go to when he was in high school. He brought a folder with him. It was thick. I knew what it was before he opened it. "We're contesting the transfer," he said. "You weren't in your right mind when you signed it. Trina says you were on medication. There are legal grounds." I stared at him. "You're trying to sue your own mother?" He didn't blink. "It's not personal. We just want what's fair." I nodded slowly. "You mean what's profitable?" He didn't deny it. "I hired Ron again, my lawyer friend. He went through everything. Every signature, every date, every note from my doctor proving I was of sound mind. Every voicemail and text Aaron had sent me while I was still staying at his house. Then Ron found something. An email. From Trina. It had been forwarded by mistake. She had emailed a real estate agent 3 weeks before I moved out of the house, calling herself the current property owner's daughter-in-law and claiming they were clearing out the last of the furniture and hoping to get the place on the market ASAP. Ron smiled when he read it. "That's called intent to defraud," he said. "And since they weren't the owners, and you were still living there, it could get ugly for them in court." I told him not to file anything yet. Not yet. A few days after Ron found the email, I got a call from my niece, Lacey. "Aunt Marianne," she said, her voice shaky, "someone tried to break into the house." My chest tightened. "What?" "I was out at the grocery store for maybe 20 minutes. When I came back, the back door was wide open. The lock's busted. Nothing's missing, but it was definitely forced." She called the police. They came, took a report, dusted for prints. But whoever did it wore gloves. I didn't have to ask who I thought it was. My gut told me. Aaron. Or maybe Trina. Or both. They were desperate. They didn't care who got hurt anymore. That house was their way out of debt, their way into early retirement. And I had taken it from them. I told Lacey to stay with me for a few days. She agreed. I helped her set up a motion camera near the porch. Ron helped us file a restraining order, just in case. But I still couldn't believe it had come to this. The next twist came from the police. A week later, a detective followed up. Said they had reviewed the footage from a neighbor's outdoor camera. It faced the alley behind Lacey's house. Guess who they saw? Aaron. And not just passing by. He was parked behind the garage around the same time Lacey had left. He got out of his truck, walked toward the back door, looked around, and disappeared out of view. He was gone for 10 minutes. Then came out, empty-handed, and drove off. They called him in for questioning. He denied everything, of course. Said he was just driving around, and must have taken a wrong turn. But it was his truck. His license plate. His face. It was enough for the detective to put it in the report. Then came the real blow. Ron found out something else during his digging. Aaron and Trina had already taken out a home equity loan against my house before they even tried to sell it. It wasn't legal. They'd forged my signature. Sloppy work. They probably thought they could clean it up later, once the house was officially sold and they had the cash. But now that the deed had been transferred, the bank was coming after them for fraud. I couldn't believe it. They were so sure they'd get away with everything, they didn't even stop to think what would happen if I fought back. Trina finally snapped. She showed up at my apartment one evening. Just walked in behind a neighbor who was holding the door open. I was sitting in the kitchen, drinking tea. She looked rough. Makeup smeared. Hair a mess. "You ruined everything," she hissed. "You think you won? You haven't won anything." I stood up, slow and careful. My legs still ached sometimes, but I was stronger now. "I protected myself," I said. "I did what you would have done." She pointed a finger at me, shaking. "Aaron's going to lose his job. We could go to jail. You should have thought about that before you forged my name." She didn't say anything. Just stood there, seething. I'm not scared of you, I said. Her lip trembled. Get out of my home, I said. She left. Slammed the door so hard, my neighbor across the hall came out and asked if I was okay. But the real twist was still coming. Ron called me a few days later. You might want to sit down, he said. Turns out, Aaron hadn't just taken out one fraudulent loan. There were 2 more lines of credit under my name, credit cards maxed out to almost $50,000. All opened in the past 6 months. He had stolen my identity. That's when it all became clear. Aaron and Trina hadn't just planned to sell my house. They had been draining me behind the scenes for months. Ron came to my apartment the next day with a folder. He dropped it on my table. I'm going to be honest, Marianne. This is bad. He used your social security number. Your name. He even answered security questions, stuff only someone close to you would know. He opened the folder. There were statements from 3 credit card companies. Total debt, $47,829. Then there were loan documents. He'd used my information to secure a cash advance for $25,000 for home repairs, again, forged. All signed in my name. I just stared at the papers. So what happens now? He looked me in the eye. We report everything. Police. Banks. The DA. And what happens to Aaron? If the DA agrees to press charges, he could be looking at jail. Multiple felonies. Identity theft. Wire fraud. Elder abuse. I sat back. Quiet. Then I nodded. Let's go all the way. Trina was arrested first. They traced her fingerprints to the fake notary seal used on one of the forged credit applications. That sealed the deal. They showed up at her job, some HR office at a medical clinic, and walked her out in cuffs. She was screaming, calling it a mistake, saying it was just family stuff. Didn't matter. Charges stuck. Aaron was arrested 2 days later. The cops knocked on my door to let me know. Said he didn't resist. Just kept shaking his head and muttering, "She really did it." You're damn right I did. They tried to say I was confused. That I must have given permission and just forgot. Ron handed over recorded voicemails. Text messages. Proof I'd been living in their house recovering from surgery when the accounts were opened. Medical records from my doctor, showing I was under heavy sedation during the exact week the credit cards were issued. It wasn't just fraud. It was exploitation. The case made it to court. I sat in the front row, watching my son in a cheap suit and a crooked tie try to look pitiful in front of the judge. Trina never looked at me once. The trial was short. Less than 2 weeks. The DA laid it out plain and simple. They had planned to steal my house, take out money in my name, and stick me in a facility before I ever figured it out. Aaron's lawyer tried to say it was miscommunication. He even tried to blame me. Said I was paranoid and confused by pain medication. That's when I stood up and asked to speak. The judge allowed it. I walked slowly to the stand. My cane echoed on the wood floor. I looked at my son. And then I looked at the jury. My name is Marianne. I raised that man after my husband died. I worked for 40 years to keep a roof over our heads. I fed him before I fed myself. I walked to work in the snow when we couldn't afford gas. I gave him everything I had. And when I needed help, just a little help, he decided I was trash. He and his wife decided to throw me away and keep my house. But that house is mine. It's where I held him when he had nightmares. It's where I kissed his skinned knees. It's where I sat up crying the night his father died. Do you know what it feels like to hear your own child call you dead weight? Well, now he gets to carry the weight of what he did. I turned and walked back to my seat. No one moved. The verdict came the next day. Guilty on all charges. Aaron got 5 years. Trina got 3. No parole for either of them for the first half of their sentences. They both cried in court. Aaron tried to talk to me as they took him away, but I didn't say a word. Now, the house is safe with Lacey. She fixed the locks, added cameras, and planted fresh flowers in the yard. Every Sunday she sends me a new photo. I keep them all on my fridge. I still live in my apartment. It's quiet, and I've made peace with it. Ruth visits once a week, and we drink tea and play cards. The banks forgave most of the debt after they saw the police reports. Ron helped me freeze my credit and set up protection for the rest of my finances. He even found a program that helps seniors who've been scammed by their families. I qualified for a grant and a part-time nurse. I'm okay now. I don't cry about Aaron anymore. I grieved him once, when he became the kind of man who could look at his mother and see dollar signs. But I don't miss that man. The boy I raised is gone. And maybe that's the real loss. But the house? That stayed in the right hands. And as for the people who thought I was dead weight, they now spend every day in a locked room, with no house, no freedom, and no one to lie to. That's not just karma. That's justice.